So I think this is the only time in my history of radio that even throughout the rest of my career, that I will ever be able to do this and introduce this way. Colin Rizzo here. Joined alongside me is Mike Rizzo, as always. And funny enough, let's introduce him as the general manager of the Nationals to start so nobody gets confused.
Yes.
But Mike Rizzo of the Washington Nationals, the general manager, joining us now on Russo and Rizzo. I got the Mike Rizzos on either side of me at the Cacti Park of the Palm Beaches on ESPN 106.3. Appreciate you giving us the time, Mike.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
So let's get a sense of this so far. Spring training for you at Cacti Park of the Palm Beaches. I mean, this is going to be full throttle here, but you said it's something interesting right when you came up to us, is what's the key to you getting out of spring training, that's month of the season, getting everybody warmed up a little bit? What are the check boxes you have to hit?
You know, we want to be moving the needle moving north as we move north, and keeping people healthy, preparing them for the long marathon of a season, and once we get everything that the foundation's built, then we want to see the growth going into the regular season.
You don't want to take steps back. That's the big key to this. But talk about a team that has a lot of young talent kind of making their way up here with the Washington Nationals, the outfield specifically. You got the Wood, you got Young, you got Dylan Cruz, who splashed a little bit last year and finally looking to take steps forward. Give me a sense of the young talent the Washington Nationals are looking to capitalize on the beginning part of this year.
Well, they're a big part of what we're trying to do here. We're young at 5 position player locations. All 3 outfielders, and we've got a mix of outfielders that are set behind them to take a next step forward. We've got a young shortstop, a young second baseman, a young catcher, and when we filtered in some veterans around them, and when you look at our starting rotation, there's 5 young guys battling to go north. So we like where we're at as far as our youth movement. They all got their feet wet last year. I think we had 5 starters that started at least 29 games. 4 of them started 30 games, and 1 had 29 starts. So that was a good step forward in their development last year, and we want them to take the next step forward after that.
Now, Mike, I understand you brought some veterans in too, so that these young guys could kind of learn from some seasoned guys out there too.
Yeah, it's not just the season. We want them to help us, in between the white lines too. We've got Nate Lowe, who came in, with a great resume. He's most importantly a world champion. He's got that pedigree. He's got a silver slugger in his closet. He's got a gold glove in his closet, and a guy that's really going to stabilize that young infield that we have. Paul DeYoung, who comes, highly decorated in his St. Louis years. I've seen him play way too much against us, so he'll take some at bats with us this year, which will be good. He's been a stabilizing force for us, defensively, and gives us some needed pop at one of the corners. And we brought in some veteran bullpen guys too, so it all helps.
How is it watching young talent that you guys acquired come up in the league, have success, and help the team with the next generation? Because you guys, Soto, Scherzer, and now these guys are starting to come up and the team's coming together.
Yeah, we hope that this is the core group of the next championship run that we had. We had a sustained, a successful run, from 2012 to 2019, culminated in the World Series. 4 division titles,
right,
a wild card, and a World Championship. So, our goal is to win, championships, to sustain that high level of play, and to win games.
Mike Rizzo, general manager of the Washington Nationals, joining us. Russo and Rizzo, 2 Mike Rizzos actually, at Cacti Park at the Palm Beaches. They got a split squad game between the Nationals and the Marlins coming up a little later today. But you mentioned the 2019 World Championship team, a team that really capitalized in the second half of the year and sort of taking steps forward. But since then, it's sort of been a little bit of a rebuild. Find out with Soto shipping out, and then the Scherzer, Strasburg couldn't get healthy. Give me a sense of, are we looking towards the end of this sort of rebuild? Is this going to be time where it's sort of put up or shut up?
Well, I'll just correct you one thing. It hasn't been a little bit of a rebuild. It's been a lot of a rebuild.
There you go.
And
right.
The rebuild is not fun. But it's necessary. And we felt it was time to recalibrate our talent base. And we think that we've done that successfully. And now it's time for the young players to blossom into everyday big league players. And again, we reiterate that our goal is to sustain excellence and to not only be a one and done type of championship team, but be a consistent championship contributor for years to come.
Mike, being with the Nationals as long as you had and being in the baseball industry as long as you have, what is the number one thing you've kind of learned that you got to lock into when you're a general manager? Is there something specific in the business that you got to make sure you got your I's dotted and your T's crossed?
Well, this is my 43rd spring training, and over all those years, I've had a lot of great teams. I've had a lot of great individual players, and rubbed elbows with a lot of great baseball people. What I've learned is, it's probably a very simplistic thing, but this is a players' league. The players are the utmost important thing that we have here. Now we do a lot of work with scouting and player development and analytics and all that stuff, but it all comes down to one thing: the players. Our job is to find the most talented players, but the players with best character that fit into the clubhouse and to play the game the right way. And oftentimes when you play this game the right way, the baseball gods shine down on you, and you play well, it seems. And that's what I've learned over the years. This is a players' league. You could sugarcoat it any way you want, but it's all about the players. We cater to them, and they're the most important thing that we have.
How has the market changed in terms of now 43rd spring training? It's weird that sometimes it takes a little longer than expected for some of these guys to get signed, to find homes, whether it's via free agency, whether it's the litigation process and the whole thing like that with the new agents and everything. Give me a sense of, since you kind of got started, White Sox, D-backs, even the early part of the Nationals, how that market has changed, how putting a team together has changed in the grand scope of baseball.
I don't think it's changed that much. You focus in on character players that can really play the game, and you try and surround yourself with as many of them as possible. And it starts at the grassroots level. I had long meetings with our Danny Haas, our vice president of scouting today, always talking to our player development guys, always talking to our pro scouts, and gathering information and seeing which player we could plug in that fits what we're trying to do, that will give us the smallest type of advantage on roster creation and that type of thing. And I think that the formula is very, very difficult to attain, but it's very simple: is to acquire the best players that are contributors between the white lines, in a clubhouse, in the community, and those are the best teams that we've ever had when we've had a multitude of those guys.
Mike, you've been around baseball for a long time. The transition of the game, the changing of the game, what's been the thing that stuck out to you? I mean, I'm reading it. And let me get this straight, too. You're the guy who drafted you with the Angels, Larry Himes, hired you as a scout for the White Sox, too. Is that correct?
That's
correct.
Correct.
So from your time as a scout with the White Sox until now, what's the biggest transition, in your opinion, that the game has made?
I think that the biggest transition is that we try and microwave these players, and we get the players to the big leagues faster than we've ever have in the past, and I think it's a combination of different things. It's I know myself, where you have to be very, very patient in this job, but it's difficult sometimes to be patient, and players develop at their own timetable. You can't rush it. Just because you have a hole at a certain position and you've got a good young minor league player, you can't rush him here and have him regress. So it's all about what is your blueprint for success? How do you get there? What is the timeline? And you have to have support from the top, and it's got to trickle all the way down. We all have to be on the same page. Lerner family, who owns the team, myself and Davey Martinez, we're all lockstep in what we're trying to do in this plan and this process. And when you start seeing the fruits of your labor, that's when you have to be most patient. And I think that you've got a plan in place, and you have to stick to the process. And often at the end of that, if you can do that, the process works out for itself.
Well, you mentioned guys that are flying through the minors faster than ever has been before. Guys like Dylan Cruz is starting to make his way there. Paul Skeens, who we played with in college, he drafted in the same draft, flew through the minors as well. Bryce Harper is another one, flew through it. Give me a sense of when you know that a player is time to take steps, when you could expedite a process.
Well, I think there's no chronological age that it happens. I think that you develop as a player at your own pace, but I think there's outliers to any rule, and I think that you mentioned just a handful of those guys, but they're the outliers, and the process is that you have to hone your skills at the minor league level and be ready to play in the big leagues when you get to the big leagues, because I often tell guys when they first come to the big leagues, there's been approximately 23,000 players that have ever played Major League Baseball. That's a very, very small community of players, and it's an honor to be here. And it's really, really difficult to get to the big leagues, but it's even harder to stay in the big leagues, and that's what these guys are looking for. Is we want long-lasting guys that can grow with the organization and be here. Be here. There's a reason that 10 years is a magic number for service time in the major leagues, is because it's very, very difficult to be a 10-year major league player, and those guys should be honored. And the players are always striving to get there.
Now, you mentioned longevity. What does it take for a player nowadays to have longevity?
Especially
in the MLB?
now, it's trickier than ever, especially with arms. You got to make sure it's a lot more shorter spurt. Guys are not going 8 or 9 anymore, so it's you got to be creative with that.
And Mike, baseball in the 80s was, you had Nolan Ryan throwing until his arm fell off in the 9th inning. Now, everyone's on pitch counts. Everyone's throwing 100 miles an hour and on pitch counts, it seems.
Yeah, I think the secret to longevity is to be healthy, and that's that's a skill in itself.
Right.
Like I said, we had our alumni, some of our classic alumni players that were the Nats from years back. The Ian Desmonds of the world, the Danny Espinosas of the world, the Tyler Clippers of the world. Their greatest ability for a general manager and a manager is availability. And because they were available every day, and they were fortunate in their careers that they had the physicality to do it, the mindset to do it, and the toughness to do it, because very rarely once you get into very early in the season, these guys are playing with nicks and bumps and bruises every day, but you have to you have to punch as Ian Desmond always says, you have to punch the clock every day, and that's an ability that is something that we're always looking for.
Mike Rizzo, general manager of the Washington Nationals, joining Russo and Rizzo on ESPN 1063. Retaining stars is as hard as ever. And I think the Washington Nationals, you guys have dealt with your fair share of, all right, it's going to be tricky to hold on to this. We're going to have to make a couple decisions here on who we sort of, try to get under contract, try to move on from, or let walk, whatever it may be. Has that gotten worse over the last 10, 15 years in terms of the amount of the large contracts? The disparity has gotten wider. It's got the $800 million contracts like Juan Soto across town, and then you got the smaller contracts where you got to go play year by year here. How has that sort of altered your perspective and how you manage?
It's all about roster management, and and you have to know who to extend. Then you have to get a guy who wants to be extended, and you have to come up with a negotiation that allows the player to take your offer. And you always have to have plan B, C, and D if it doesn't work out. So we think that we've navigated those waters pretty effectively here. Every club goes through it, and we've run through here some pretty fascinating superstars, over the last 10 years, and we've got the hardware to show for it.
Now, one thing too about that is you guys have had a lot of success, especially towards putting together a team and then sort of making your decisions big as you go. But what I've been seeing as a baseball fan is somebody who wants to see parity, wants to see some, I guess, intrigue, especially when it comes to free agency. The Dodgers have kind of just taken all the chips for themselves. Is that going to change? From a general manager's perspective, can you see that changing, and do you want to see it change?
And Mike, even the deferred contracts, is that going to be the future? I think Bregman even got deferred money as well. Is this something that GMs are going to continue to use to their advantage?
Well, the answer to that is yes. They're going to use it to their advantage. But deferred contracts, this isn't something new out of the blue. This has happened for years and years and years, and teams utilize it for their benefit. And I think that when you can get a deal that works for both people, that's the deal that gets done. And I think that the money that you spent on players is always determined on where you're at in your roster construction and where the team is at in the standings. So I think that none of this stuff is brand new. We've been through it. We've been through it. It's certainly reported on more often.
Yeah,
and
a little bit more
discussed more often. But it's always been there, and I don't see it going away.
Now, are there guardrails in the future in terms of how this is done?
What's done?
How free agency is done? Whether I'm alluding to maybe a cap, maybe a floor. Is that something in MLB's cards in the future?
Well, I have no idea. That's above my pay grade.
Right.
I have enough problems worrying about the Washington Nationals.
Worried about who's going out there tonight on the mound.
Exactly. With the wind howling, just keep the ball down would be my advice tonight. But those are big. Those are global questions that will be answered with somebody higher up than myself. But we all have a game plan in mind, and it's driven from the top. And it goes down, and we all have our marching orders, and we all have our budgets, and we all have our game plan. We all have our blueprints to success, the teams that implement that blueprint best are the teams that hold the trophy at the end of the year.
Now, do you have a favorite opening day story? Obviously, we're a couple of weeks back, Mike, but do you have a funny opening day story, an embarrassing opening day story, a great opening day story? You've been around baseball for so long, I have to ask.
Yeah, opening day to me is the most special day of the year.
Right.
I always say, my two favorite and most important days of the year are opening day and the baseball draft. Those are the two most important days in the baseball world, and it brings me back to opening days when I was a kid. I had a transistor radio in school. I used to listen to the Cubs opening day, or sneak away from school to go to the Cubs opening day. My dad was in this game for 60 years, and opening day was always a special day for us because baseball is life for the Rizzo family, and we have a lot of fond memories of opening days.
Now, give me a sense of playing at Cacti Park at the Palm Beaches. West Palm, it's a pretty premier place to play some baseball for a month, the early part of the year.
Mike, I'll tell you what, you got a nice tan
going. Taking advantage, probably a couple tee times here and there for Mike Rizzo. But give me a sense of playing here, West Palm. You got a lot of teams that are local right here in this area. It's a little group, tight-knit group that you got comparatively. Give me a sense of that.
It's great. It's a wonderful place to prepare for the season. West Palm Beach has been great to us. They've opened their arms to the Astros and ourselves, and we've got 5 teams within 40 minutes of each other. So it's the travel is terrific, and the atmosphere here, the weather's great, and we couldn't be happier to be training in this spot.
Well, Mike, we appreciate you giving us the time here. Last thing here before we let you go, expectation for the Washington Nationals. You can't generalize it. You can't put a number to it. But in terms of, you said, a gradual upward, I guess, trajectory you'd like to see. But in terms of the expectation, what is the thing you most want to see out of your Washington Nationals?
Well, we're going to compete. We're going to compete every night, and we've got a behemoth division, and I respect all the teams in this division, and they're run flawlessly by their general managers and their executives, and they're you look at all the rankings, and they're top 5, and most of the teams are from the National League East. So it's a rough division to navigate, but to be the best, you have to play the best, and we're going to compete every night against these really good teams, and our expectation is to win that game that night.
Mike, looking forward to following the rest of the National Spring Training. Best of luck the rest of the year, and we'll hopefully speak again soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Rizzo and Russo. Appreciate it.
How about that? We got one Mike Rizzo. We got 2 Mike Rizzos. One, of course,
got to be Mike. Distant relatives. Got to be distant relatives somehow. Now, I will say this too, partner. When I was in college, I'd be getting some tweets from some angry fans. I put to the point where I would just start responding. It's on me. Sorry, guys, but it was one of those things I always
laughed about. You have a fall guy right here.
Yeah, just tell him to tweet me at Mike Rizzo 22. I'll handle it for the true Mike Rizzo.
You're the only Mike Rizzo on social media, so you're probably getting all of them.
Got a fall guy for Mike Rizzo. We got Mike Rizzo, the general manager of the Washington Nationals. Appreciate it. Looking forward to the night, and best of luck rest of the way.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.